up for free. You can go to my blog, jibberjobber.com/blog. And then in one of the recent posts, you'll find links to go directly to the form to get the free April. You don't put a credit card in. If you're watching this after April of 2020, I actually have, usually I have some 30-day passes that I can give out. So just reach out to me and I'll let you know if I can hook you up with a 30-day pass. Either of these options don't include a credit card, which is awesome because then you don't have to worry about canceling something that's going to auto bill you every month, which is such a pain. So they don't do that, which I love. But it's a great opportunity to take advantage of learning and progressing and stuff like that. Today at 3 Eastern, so it's noon. So in 3 hours, I'm going to get on with the fabulous Casey Ayers. He's also a Pluralsight author and one of the smartest people I've met in my life. Just a really sharp, super nice guy. And so I am going to talk with him about the project management professional certification. So here's the really cool thing about this. Casey developed all of the courses that you need for exam prep for the project management certification. This is amazing. This is something you could easily pay hundreds of dollars somewhere else. I've seen this in the thousands of dollars, and you can get it all in Pluralsight. Let's say that you don't get the free April, and let's say that you don't get my 30-day pass. You still are paying like what, 20 or 30 bucks a month to have access to just the exam prep alone is worth way more than what the Pluralsight cost is, not to mention all the other courses you get. So I'm going to talk to Casey this afternoon and basically say, hey, I kind of want to become a project manager, like a project management professional. I want the certification, I want the designation, but I'm not quite sure like I'm ready for this. And what am I looking at as far as, the amount of time it's going to take to go through this? Is it really, really difficult? I mean, I've been in this space for over 20 years, so I understand project management, but what's it going to take really for someone like me to pass this test? Or if you're looking at getting into project management, I tell you what, it's great money, great jobs, fun jobs. You're in a very interesting position as a project manager, and having a PMP can really help your career. So that's in 3 hours at 3 o'clock Eastern time. I think that's in 3 hours. All right. Tomorrow is Thursday, and we're going to talk about how to get your next promotion. That's one of my courses that I did a few years ago. Friday, we're going to talk about mentoring. I have 2 courses on mentoring. One is becoming a better mentor, and the other is becoming a better mentee. And just finally, last bit of housekeeping, I want to talk really quickly about a blog post that I wrote yesterday, April 14th. It says, the sky has fallen. I put the career. So the career sky has fallen, what to do during COVID-19. And I have this analogy about how in the winter time, and I've lived in places with, I consider horrible winters, lots of snow and cold and dark and gloom. And I always wondered, like, why do we need winter? Winter's lame. I grew up in the tropics and winter's no fun. And I finally came to realize that on a farm, you have to have the winter to give the land a break and to let it replenish. And I know there are tropical farms that don't need that, but where I lived, it seemed to be something that they needed. And so I talk about the winter of your career. And I know a lot of people are getting laid off. I just read an article yesterday about a second wave of layoffs. So in the article, it talked about how, for sure we're going to have the hourly and the hospitality and certain industries are really going to get hit hard. And now we're looking at the professionals who can work from home, right? So programmers and such who can work from home, and they're getting laid off too. And it's really this domino effect of these other industries and other economies crumbling that's impacting companies. What was it? I just read on something this morning as I was getting out of bed. I read about, it's on the tip of my brain. Anyways, it's a company that laid off 400 people on a Zoom recording. And then they're professional level people, right? Like these are people that are probably making, close to six figures, if not easily more. And they all 400 people from a Zoom recording. Isn't that ridiculous? So anyways, that's a lot of the stuff that I talk about is career management and how to be prepared. And the idea that we're going through a personal winter in our own careers. So what do? Like the earth does stuff during the winter, like there's replenishing and rejuvenating and all that stuff. What can we do if we're going to go into a personal winter? So that's on the jibberjobber.com/blog page. It's called The Career Sky Has Fallen, What to Do During COVID-19. All right, let's jump into teams. So when I think about teams, I generally enjoy working with people. I enjoy working by myself. I like being responsible for everything that I should be responsible for, getting it done, and then moving on to the next thing. But if I'm on a team, that's cool generally. I don't like being on teams, and I don't like going to meetings where they're fluffy and they're purposeless. I like to go in, get stuff done, come out with a list, everybody's making progress, stuff like that. So anyways, I was in school in the 1900s. I was in college in the 1900s. I did my MBA, I think 2000, 2001, maybe 2002. Yeah, I did it. My MBA in the early 2000s. So I was in school 1900s and 2000s. And this really weird thing was happening back then. And I think it's worse now. Somebody decided, some smart school person decided that one of the most important things that we were going to learn in college was how to work on a team with other people, right? And so whatever. I did not go to college to learn how to work on a team with other people because I'd been on teams. I'd done stuff with teams. And I felt like in my university experience, they put this idea of working on a team and working with other team members higher than some of the other things that I actually went to school for, like learning things. And so anyways, it was just really important that everybody worked on a team, and which meant that every class had teams, where you had to like pick your team, and then you have this project for weeks or months or till the end of the semester or whatever. And so whatever, it was fine. And as you know, I was on a call with Adam Frisbee the other day. It's in the archives on my YouTube channel. I don't remember exactly what topic we were talking about. It was on LinkedIn, and Adam teaches at a school, and he was talking about working on teams and how important it is in the university experience. And I just kind of cringed a little bit as I remembered this experience when I was a senior. So this must have been 99 or 2000. And one of the classes in the business program is called Capstone, the Capstone Project. And this is where you kind of take all of the classes that you did through all of your business studies. And so accounting and marketing and all these things. And you put it all together to create one big deliverable. I don't remember doing like an oral exam, but I'm pretty sure we did some kind of orals. And then we also had like a big paper that we had to write. And so it was me and a buddy of mine. And I'm going to say that we probably were not, neither of us were like hit up to be on the cover of a GQ magazine. Okay. So we were not like the ideal, awesome, cool guys. But we were both very serious about school, especially at this point where we're just anxious to be done with school. The other two were accounting majors, and they were straight A's, not because they were that smart or worked that hard. I know that they kind of got their A's through questionable means. Anyways, they were straight A students, and one of them was extremely good looking, like the perfect package, and the other one was he was an idiot. I hated him, but he was in the cool club, right? And me and this other guy weren't in the cool club, and then these two guys were in the cool club. And well, the accounting majors had this really special elite room that they could go hide out in, right? So there's this place where they could go and study their really important number crunching stuff away from the rest of the College of Business people. And it was very elite, and you weren't allowed in there unless you were part of the, in the accounting program. So anyways, my buddy and I would go up to these guys and we're like, hey, when are we going to work on this project? When are we going to do this? When are we going to talk about? When are we going to read? When are we going to do all these things? And every single time we went to talk to them, they're like, oh yeah, no, don't worry about it, man. We got it. We got this covered. Like this next part, we got it. We're going to go do it, or we already did it. Right. And so every time we went to work with these two guys, they brushed us off completely. And I'm like, man, this is weird. And so I studied, like I read the case, and me and the other guy tried to do everything that we knew how to do. Working on a team of 2 is different than working on a team of 4, which is what we were supposed to do. And so anyways, whatever, fine. So if you guys need to do all the work, then you guys do all the work. And I guess you're smarter than us anyways. And I'm pretty sure everything's going to come out all right, until the professor called me into his office and he said that those 2 guys said that me and the other guy had done nothing and didn't try to reach out, didn't respond to them reaching out to us. And I was flabbergasted at this series of lies that was coming through. And the professor was very accusatory, and he was basically saying, you're going to fail this class, which means you're not going to get your degree, and you're going to have to take this class over. And I was pissed. I was livid that those guys would tell all those lies. They were unnecessary. I mean, it was really unnecessary for them to do that. But my whole contention was, I have been trying day after day, week after week, to get in front of these people, and they're not responding. Like, they're going into their little accounting cool hole and doing whatever, and they're completely disregarding me and this other guy. And I was so mad. So anyways, I let the professor know, here's all the stuff that we've done. Here's what we've tried to do. Here's all the times we reach out. And here's the responses that we get when we reach out. And long story short, I think we all in the group got the same grade. I'm pretty sure that's how it worked. I don't think that me and the other guy were docked any points. But he went and talked to everybody else. I'm sure he talked to the other person and then the 2 accounting students. And finally, I guess he was just like, all right, whatever, I'm just going to let this go, and whatever. But that was my first real big experience working on a team with a couple of, I don't know if they were narcissists, but they were definitely jerks. And they just about ruined me getting my degree when I should have gotten my degree. It was very, very frustrating. Now, before that, I'd worked on teams where there was slackers, and I carried the team, and I'm sure everybody who's watching this or listening to this has been in the same situation where you've been on a team and you feel like you're doing all the work. You're doing all the work, and you can definitely point out who the people are who aren't doing any of the work, right? And so I'm sure that you guys have been in that situation. Sometimes, because of circumstances, you can't add a whole lot. Maybe you got a lot of stuff going on at home or work or whatever, and you can contribute where you can, but you're not going to be able to be the main leader. And that's okay, right? That's okay. It has a lot to do with how you communicate and managing expectations and stuff like that. So anyways, there's 2 courses that have to do with teamwork that I've created on Pluralsight. There are more courses on Pluralsight that have to do with teams. So just go search Pluralsight teams or teamwork or something like that, and you'll find plenty of them. The 2 that I did are, 1, working on a team, which is 1 hour and 48 minutes. And the first time I looked at that in a long time was this morning. And I thought, man, 1 hour and 48 minutes is so long. How are we going to watch a course that's 1 hour and 48 minutes long? I really can't budget that amount of time. And then I thought, it's actually kind of a ridiculous thought when you think about, I know people who commuted 1 hour to college each way. Just their drive alone was 2 hours, right? And this one course is less than 2 hours. I was thinking, if we're really serious about our professional development, if we're really serious about getting better, this is not an entertainment thing. These courses on Pluralsight or anywhere, it's not for our entertainment. You want entertainment, go watch a movie, or go binge watch some shows. But these courses are not necessarily entertainment. Hopefully they can be entertaining, but this is about taking notes and figuring out how I can be better at whatever topic. And so as I'm looking at this, how to work on a team, there are 4 modules. The first one is understanding team dynamics. And I start right off with why teams fail and the what's and the whys of a team, what makes a team successful. I talk a lot about communication. I talk about making decisions, and I talk about authority. Who has authority on a team? And just a day or two ago, I talked about the de facto leader, where there's somebody who is assigned to be a leader, a group leader, or team leader, and then there's somebody else who isn't assigned, but that's who everybody follows, right? And I've been in a situation where there was a very defined leader with the authority, but he didn't, how shall I say this? He didn't command the respect. Whereas there was this other person who didn't have a leadership position, but everybody followed this other person. And it was just so fascinating to watch the difference between the authoritative leader and the de facto leader. And if you're in a situation like that, whether you're the authoritative leader or the de facto leader, figure out how you can work together. I think a good leader in the authority position needs to understand how they can harness their resources best, right? And so if you have a de facto leader, maybe you go to that de facto leader and say, hey, look, I want to include you in on what we're doing and have you help persuade and lead these other people because they're listening to you more than they're listening to me. I'm not sure if those are the words that I would use, but that's the idea. That's the message that I would give. Now, if you are a de facto leader, you don't have the position, you don't have the authority, you don't have the title, but people are following you. You can either be a real jerk and lead them away from the authoritative leader, like you're going to run a coup or something like that, or a great sign of leadership and wisdom and professional maturity is that you will respect that authoritative leader. Hopefully they're respectable, right? Like the position and the cause and the person and the integrity's there and stuff like that. That's my assumption. But as long as all that's in place, if you're the de facto leader, one of the best things that you can do for you and your team and the leader is to help support that leader. And I think that's really important that we do that on a team. I think there's usually a de facto leader and usually an authoritative leader on a team that are not necessarily the same person. All right, so I talk about ad hoc teams where you have to fire one up real quick and then do a job and then you end it. And how do you end it, right? So I talk about that in the course. The next module is tactics to become an excellent team contributor. And so I talk about what your objectives and your goals are to kind of set the vision and set the foundation. And then I have 24 tactics. The first 8 are for your attitude, the next 8 are for actions, and the next 8 are for awareness. In the next module, I talk about, get this, talk about this in some of my other courses, working with difficult people. So you can tell that in my career, I've actually had the opportunity to work with difficult people. And that's putting it lightly. So I talk about how to communicate with, I talk about rules of engagement. Look at this, self-awareness, which is the first pillar of emotional intelligence. I talk about different types of people. So I got the slacker, the incompetent person, the control freak, the compulsive liar, the people pleaser, the competitor, the know-it-all, all the way down through the narcissist. And then I talk about understanding different personalities, which again is a different course that I've created. And so that is, let's see, is that just 3? 1, 2. Oh, I guess that's just 3 modules on working on a team. I definitely encourage you to go check this course out. I mean, we have to work on teams, right? We have to work with other people. And I want you to increase your game, up your game on how to work with other people effectively and do it in a way where it's not going to mess up your mental health. Like we can really drive ourselves nuts working with people that we just don't understand. I'm not saying that we have to like the people. I'm not saying that we have to love the people. We might not even have to respect the people, but there are things we can do on a team as a team player to have an effective team and then be done, right? It's not like we're marrying the people that are on these teams, although I'm sure that's been known to happen. All right, so the next course on teams is creating and leading effective teams for managers. So this is an hour and 8 minutes. And basically what we're doing is we're talking about some of these team dynamics and working together and stuff like that. But as a leader and as a manager, how are we creating an environment to help reduce the problems and reduce the friction and increase the output, right? So whether it's performance and outcome, or it's satisfaction of people working on a team, or we're reducing the stress of interpersonal issues and stuff like that. So the first module, I talk about the roles and responsibilities of a team leader. I talk about how you're not the participant. If you're the leader, you can do things. You can be hands-on. You can roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty and do work. But a lot of times, it depends on the team, the purpose of the team, the dynamics of the team, the size of the team, the length of the team, all that stuff. Sometimes you don't have time to get your hands dirty. And it's weird to go from, I'm going to program for 6 hours today versus I'm going to be in leadership and management for meetings for 6 hours today. And it can be really frustrating until and unless you understand what your role is on the team as a leader, okay? So maybe one of your roles, and I've had this role over the years, maybe one of your roles is to, set your team up and give them all the resources they need so they can do their job, information, tools, etc. And then the rest of your time, what you're doing is you're protecting your team from other teams, other executives, from other people. And that is a massive and important role as the team leader. The last thing you want as a team leader is to know that this boss and this supervisor and this noisy client and this noisy coworker all came in behind your back and talked to people on your team and started readjusting timelines and projects and priorities and all that stuff. And you don't need that, right? So part of your role is to step away from the dirty work that you want to do, programming or whatever the operational stuff is to move the line forward. Part of your job as a leader might be to step away from that and do things to protect your team. And how many here would love to have had a manager protect you and your team and your colleagues from people who never should have came in and disrupted your team? All right, so I talk about responsibilities and expectations of a team leader, et cetera, et cetera. The next module is creating teams that work. And I talk about building your team. I remember years ago, I was talking with some venture capitalists when I started my company. And I came to understand that venture capitalists invest in A player teams or A teams. They invest in top-notch talent, right? And so contrast that to a few years later when my wife and I were working with some youth in a Shakespeare program. And these were probably 12 and 13-year-old kids. And what we learned was when we were casting people for different parts in the play was not to cast the best people for certain parts that they would excel in, but to really think about how people who needed what role so they could grow and learn and have the best experience, right? And so what that meant was maybe you take your best people and you don't give them the biggest roles. Maybe you give them smaller roles or different roles, whereas you have someone who has the potential and they just needed this opportunity. The same way that those best people have been getting opportunities their whole life, we were supposed to identify people who needed and would get value out of these opportunities and they would grow from those. And it was really interesting to think about, like, hey, who should be here because of their merits and who would do the best job and we'd have the best outcome versus, wait a minute, we're not here to make the best play. We're here to build these kids and grow these kids. And so if we can figure out who who needed opportunities. So take that over to your experience with building teams, right? So I want you to get the best people on your team. Like, this is going to have an impact on how you perform, and it can have an impact on your future bonuses, and it can have an impact on your career and stuff like that. But if it's a team that is not so maybe high visible, or the outcome isn't as critical or whatever, maybe consider giving some people some of those growth opportunities, and they need it, right? And so here's what happens when you give those people their growth opportunities. They remember that, right? You have now become a very important person in their journey to become a great employee and professional and in their career and stuff like that. And so what you're doing is as we talked about a few days ago, you are investing in your relationship capital. Now, I'm not saying to do something that could be harmful to the people or the outcome or the organization, but you as a leader have the ability to figure out, to discern whether it's high or low risk to put certain people into certain positions. So anyways, talk a lot about that stuff on building and creating your team. And then the last module is tactics to manage and lead teams to excellence. And so we talk about managing change, dealing with conflict, dealing with outside influences, creating a cohesive team culture, things like that. So anyways, that's it. So teams, if you go in Pluralsight under the course on the website, there's a link that says related courses, and you should be able to see other courses that have to do with building, managing, growing, working in teams. Guys, this is professional development. This is the stuff that we learn about to be better employees instead of being the jerk that nobody wants to work with. And I'm not saying we have to appease everybody and we don't have to be peacemakers and all that stuff, but not that there's anything wrong with that. But these are skills that we can learn to help us have better, more fulfilling careers and have more opportunities. Because as we hone these skills, these are things that people are going to remember us for in 5 or 10 years and say, I want that person on my team. All right, so go get your free April. We got 15 more days of free April at Pluralsight to go watch all this stuff. You can look for my courses. Easiest way is go to Google and just type in Jason Alba Pluralsight, and you'll find my author page. In a few hours, 2.5 hours, we're going to talk with Casey Ayers about becoming a project manager, a certified project management professional, which I'm really excited about. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about how to get your next promotion. And Friday, we're talking about mentoring. If you want to get this type of conversation on YouTube, then just go to the subscribe button down somewhere over there and subscribe, and then I'll pop up next time I'm up. All right, talk to you later.